Welcome back to our study called The Flood, and we're looking at Genesis chapter 7. Today, we're focusing in on verses 6 through 16, and the idea that God rescues from judgment. Let's look at the day the flood came. Look at verse 11 here. Moses tells us that the flood happened in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month on the 17th day. It was during the day when the flood began. The only thing we're missing is the hour, which of course Noah was probably not keeping track of, though who knows if they were able to. They might have been. But Moses records the exact day when the flood begins. We need to realize that this is a historical event. Moses is pointing to a specific day. This is not once upon a time there was a man floating on a boat. Noah and his family remembered that day. If I were to ask you about 9/11, you know what I was talking about. Remember, my wife and I were living at my in-laws' house at the time. I'd gotten up that morning to get ready for work, and the TV was on, and eating some breakfast, and the news was on, and my wife was very pregnant with our first child and was still asleep, and a breaking news story came on about an airplane colliding with the World Trade Center. When the second plane hit the second tower, I went and woke my wife up and said, you need to wake up. Something's going on here. And remember it like it was yesterday. Noah and his family never forgot the 17th day of the second month. Much like the bombing of Pearl Harbor, it was a day that would live on in infamy. It was a story that Noah's son Shem could have passed on to Abraham or Isaac himself. Remember, Shem was alive during the time of Abraham and Isaac. So they could have asked Shem, one of the guys who was actually on the ark, and could have gotten that exact day. He could have said, I remember that day. It was the 600th year of my father in this month. He could have said that to them. So they could have gone right to the source. And that story obviously was passed on through the generations to Moses. Let's shift gears here and let's look at the orderly boarding of the ark. Oftentimes in portrayals of the story, the scene of the animals going into the ark is chaotic, and it's a precarious situation where the predators and prey are meeting together, and it's like, oh, is someone gonna tear that rabbit apart or something? But from the Bible account, there is no reason to believe that it wasn't something, or if it was nothing but orderly. It was God who commanded the animals to enter the ark. God is not a God of confusion, we know that. And so why would we assume this command to send all the animals to the ark would have been a complete chaos and insanity out, that everything was going crazy outside the ark? It doesn't make sense. Everything that we've seen so far in the story of even how to build the ark and when the rain was going to come, everything was ordered and everything was structured. So it makes sense to believe, and from the text we don't see that, things were in danger. Things happened quickly. The animals got on the boat quickly. It didn't take them years to try to get all the animals on. It happened fast. So the idea that God is a God of order and He had ordered this whole situation to happen is what the Bible describes. And then after all the animals get on, we see that the Lord shuts them in. Notice that Noah doesn't close the door on the ark. Actually, no human does. Verse 16 says specifically that the Lord shut him in. J.R. Miller said, in the account of the entering of Noah into the ark, before the flood came, we read that the Lord shut him in. For almost a year, Noah and his family were shut-ins. But it must have been a comfort for them to know that the shutting of the door was not accidental, that the Lord had done it. There was another comfort. It was very much better inside than outside. Outside there were great storms, wild torrents, terrible destruction. No man could live in the rushing waters. Within there was perfect safety. Not a drop of rain dashed in. No wild tempest swept through the door. The ark was a chamber of peace, floating quietly and securely in the midst of the most terrible ruin the world ever saw. The Lord's shutting in of His people was to save them.